Disclaimer: this video will have mentions of suicide, child abuse, self-harm, and other mental health related issues. If these topics make you uncomfortable, feel free to find another video. I'm not going to be upset, just take care of yourself. Hey there, Jam here, and welcome to my first ever storytime-esque animation video. I am very excited to make this video, honestly. I feel like it's been a long time coming because, like all kids growing up, back when storytime animations were becoming popular, I was like, I want to do that. But to be fair, I was like a child. What did I have to say? Talk about how I didn't like being in elementary school? Now that I'm older, I like to think that I'd have plenty stories to tell. To my regular subscribers, I am so sorry if my content seems like it's jumping from niche to another niche. I'd like to think that I'm staying within the commentary realm. I finally decided that I'm going to put my gaming content on my second channel for anyone who cares, it's going to be there now. This year, I'm really honing in on doing more things that I want to do, jumping out of my comfort zone and taking that leap of faith to see if I go anywhere with this whole thing I'm trying to do. I'm usually not vulnerable with the camera, so this video is going to be, I believe, my second video ever where I tell you guys stuff about my personal life. I am still a real person, obviously. I just use Jam as my avatar because he's my favorite character ever. And if anything, I'm more of a VTuber in the sense that I'm puppeting a character, not that I'm trying to be the character. So if you see me going back and forth from, you know, drawing Jam to drawing my persona, then that's why. With all of that exposition out the way, I want to talk about my experience in a children's mental hospital. It is a morbid topic, but one I've been dying to talk about on this channel and just with someone in general because I've been keeping these stories in. Every time I tell people about my experience within my real life, they always look at me with a side eye like, yes, we know, you've told us already, Jam. Weirdo. Or get really nervous and worried for me. Are you okay? What do you mean you had to go to the mental hospital? I keep on forgetting that the mental hospital isn't a place that people have to go to in their daily lives unless it's their work. In fact, it's a place some people never have to go to ever in their entire lives, and I've went twice as a minor. My experience with it actually wasn't that bad. I'm aware that children's mental hospitals can be hit or miss, but luckily mine wasn't particularly abusive, degrading, or hell to be in. However, there was a plethora of problems and weird happenings that went on in there, so let's talk about it.
Please enjoy.
I'm going to explain the procedures in my hospital, but just note, not all hospitals work this way. Some are more free and like regular living quarters, and others are more asylum-like. I'd say mine was right in the middle. It was very obvious we were in a hospital, but they treated us well, and we got benefits than the other hospitals in our area. For starters, you couldn't self-admit like an adult institution. You'd have to get a parent or guardian to bring you to the place for an evaluation or get you evaluated via phone call. The only way you can be brought to the hospital without a parent is if you're brought by the police or you were brought from a hospital, like the real kind. After being evaluated and said your goodbyes to your parents, your things besides some quality of life items are taken away and you're given clothes. The ones we had in my first stay was rainbow tie-dye shirts and blue pants, but new patients got blue long sleeve shirts and blue pants, as well as new underwear and bras. If you were being admitted and was going to stay longer than a day or two, you need to get some blood work done. Like all hospitals, they need to make sure nothing is going on in your system, so they have you pee in a cup and take your blood. The IV isn't that bad, just uncomfortable and makes you sore after a few days. Then it's just a waiting game. Wake up at 8 and take your pills, morning hygiene and wash-ups, breakfast, morning group, outside time and morning snack time, group again or educational TV time, noon snack and lunch, relax time for an hour, afternoon group, evening snack and dinner, evening shower and pills, and then break time until 9 p.m. where we usually go outside, watch regular movies on Disney+, draw and color, read, just do anything to take the edge off without using our electronics because we don't have them. It was a fine routine, but the nurses were really nice, especially this one nurse who was always hyping me up whenever it was meds time. She actually remembered me the second time I came in and was even nicer than before. There were some interns who gave massive attitude, and it always got on my nerves because if you hate working with mentally ill children, stop trying to work at mental hospitals. But with all that out the way, let's talk about the first time I went. The hospital I went to is ages from 4 to 17, and I went from ages 15 to 16. My stay usually lasted around a few days to a week because I was one of the people in there for suicide. Twice! When you're admitted into a mental hospital for trying to take your own life, or admitting to wanting to take your own life, they have to keep you there for at least 3 days. And if you seem fine after the 3 days is up, you can leave. However, not every kid is in there for the same reasons. Some were being held in there because the police had brought them in for holding, but were released after 1 or 2 days to either go home or go to juvie. And others were small children who had abusive home lives and couldn't stay at home for too long and got sent there by a family member or relative to protect them. I was brought to the hospital at 11 to 12 a.m. in the morning. My parents drove teary-eyed into the county that it was located, and we were brought in through the back door because it was really late at night. We went through the whole evaluation process, and of course they found me eligible to stay because of the circumstance that I was in. I hugged my parents goodbye and was all on my own. After they took my pee and put me in my gowns, I was off to bed. When I was brought to my room, which was at the end of the hallway, I flumped onto that hard rectangular bed and immediately fell into a deep sleep. Being in the hospital gave me these crazy, weird, but vivid dreams, and the first one that I had was where I thought that I had exited the hospital. I stayed less than 24 hours and I was brought out by my mom and sister. When I approached them, they told me how happy they were to have me back, and I told them, wow, the mental hospital was really mental. I don't want to stay there anymore. And we walked off to our car, but I woke up to natural lighting hitting my face from the rectangular window and just thought, oh, this is going to be a long stay. Spoiler alert, it actually wasn't my longest stay, but it definitely felt that way. I had a roommate who was 14 years old. She was thin and had a lighter complexion than me. I thought she was nice at first, and she was relatively nice to me, but she talked bad about everyone in the hospital for some reason. I remember her admitting that she didn't have many friends in school, which makes sense because, girl, you're rude! Constantly patronizing me and the other patients there, and just generally being really problematic. She wanted to stay there, and she had already been there for 9 days because of her misbehaving. We greeted each other in the morning and made some small talk, then did our morning watch-ups and had breakfast. Breakfast was so awkward. I didn't know what to do with myself and sat awkwardly in the cafeteria for a little bit until more people started to enter the room. I can't tell you everyone who was there with me because I don't remember most. In fact, I don't think I remember anyone's names from either the stays besides one person, but I do know that there was this really tall boy who was about 2 years older than me, emo girl 1 who I believe was the same age as me, 2 older girls. One looked emo, so I'm going to call her emo girl 2, but the other one just looked regular and was really nice, but she had a temper on her and a thick country accent. There was this 6 to 9 year old girl who was really sweet. Whenever I'd scrunch up my nose, she would giggle and say I looked like a bunny. I also helped her and the other kids play on the playground if no one was helping them. They were all so cute and relatively nice to me, so I didn't mind. There was this time she was cornered by some of the other teens. She didn't know what the N-word was, and the other black kids made her say it. She said it so quietly, and I looked really disappointed at the other kids because why do you make a sweet girl do that? But unfortunately, she got taken out to the hospital really quickly because she refused to get her IV shot, screaming and crying about it during our relaxed time. So the next day, she got released. She told me that she didn't feel any better, still extremely depressed and wanted to harm herself. Country Girl was pissed because how was she able to go home and openly admitted to wanting to harm herself, but she couldn't go home. And she admitted to the nurses multiple times that even though she had troubles with her home life, she wasn't particularly depressed or suicidal. Felt bad for Country Girl. She'd cry a lot at night up until the last few days before she left, but by the end of her stay, she actually got over the crying and learned to control her anger better. She healed from the visit, and I'm really happy for her. Then there was this Blasian girl. Though in appearance you'd never know because she looked completely Asian, she was actually black and Korean, and her voice proved it. When I saw her for the first time, I was like, oh, she seems nice, but as the first day went on, I realized she was extremely unhinged. She was never rude towards me. I mean, sometimes she'd give me funny looks, but I didn't really care. She did a lot of odd things, but I remember this one time, she saw an actor on a TV and ran up holding her arms out, screaming quietly. I held my laughter, but then she turned around and smiled and we both started giggling. I'm pretty sure there were a lot of little boys, but again, mostly my memory. I do know that there was 2 who did not like each other, and they had some beef going on from the last time they saw each other at the hospital since they were both regulars. Nothing much happened between them besides a bunch of cat fights that the teens would encourage. By the time I left, I was so done with it, man. There was like a lot of kids there. But majority of the first day went by regularly. I kept to myself and lurked around other people's conversations. Both of the emo girls made me nervous, but emo girl 1 was nice, and she said that she was going to a Pierce the Veil concert a few days after getting out of the hospital. She left the same day and I was never able to get her name, but she liked my art because she said it looked like Steven Universe. nurse. It wasn't hard to make friends because everyone had to be around each other all the time. The nurses and doctors would force you to interact with the other patients, even the people who were socially anxious. But I'll say forced in quotations because to my knowledge, I don't think they ever actively pushed anything on anyone, just highly encouraged it and made us sit in like the group for at least 5 minutes, and if someone wanted to leave, they could if they were getting too stressed out. I do remember this one girl did not talk to anyone. I'd see her in rooms by herself, mainly the big break room with the TV, talking to herself and muttering words all the time, sometimes singing and dancing and smiling. However, don't be fooled by her quiet demeanor. She was extremely hostile. The Malaysian girl tried interacting with her one time and she screamed at her, "Get out of my face, little Asian girl." She was also a chronic food thief. We're only allowed one tray for lunch, breakfast, and dinner, and given numerous snacks throughout the day. But one day during lunch, she took the tall dude's food and ran to a room by herself and closed the door, eating the food rapidly and really gross. All of us passed glances and started to giggle because goodness gracious. When tall dude finally exited his room, he stepped into the cafeteria groggily, and we all bluntly told him what had happened. He was really chill about it and didn't get too upset because he was still sick and probably couldn't eat anyways, but we all felt bad because the burgers were really good. Now, the country girl and the emo girl had some beef going on. I remember when I escaped my room during relax time to go draw with the other girls, my roommate and emo girl were talking about the country girl and how annoying and rude she was. I sat there quietly because I held a bias for country girl. Emo girl number 2 didn't give me any indicators that she was particularly a nice person, so I was nervous around her. She was just like my roommate with how patronizing she could be towards the nurses who did nothing wrong to her. When country girl finally came to sit with us, the atmosphere was off, though we all still spoke to each other. That's the one thing with girls, even if they don't like each other, they will still at the very least make face, so that way other people don't know that they don't like each other. But things got heated really fast because obviously this isn't just regular drama, this is a mental hospital. Near evening time, there was rumors that they were going to fight, but they ended up never fighting. In fact, they made up because they were better than that and realized it. On the night of day 1, we were all watching a Disney film, Luca. The Malaysian girl came into the room. "Guys, I'm going to throw pee on one of the nurses." "No way, you wouldn't. That's like really gross." "Do it." "Which one?" "She's going to pay for taking away all of my markers." None of this is exaggeration. She was going to throw piss on one of the nurses. She walked out the room and into her bedroom with a styrofoam cup and then came out with a tiny bit of pee in it. I'm guessing she didn't have to go to the bathroom and or didn't want to hold an entire cup of pee in her hand. By now, the nurses were all aware of what was going on, but they didn't think anything serious was going to happen. We all kept looking back at them, giggling with each other, and talking about the whole thing, since they were about to be finished with their shift, so who cares, right? The victim nurse walks into the room. "Hey guys, what you doing in here?" "Run while you still can." "But why would I do that?" "Anyways, I'm in control here. Whatever you have in that cup, you're going to give it to me. And go to your room, little lady." So that was bad. Obviously, she got repercussions if anyone was worried about victim nurse. It was swift and immediate. She went into the back rooms with the other nurses without any struggle, going with them herself. She didn't have to be dragged. When she came back, she was loopy and really giggly. I was sitting a few seats away from her and noticed that she had a really wet spot near her bottom. I asked her if she was peeing herself and she said no, it's just the booty juice. So booty juice was slang in the hospital for a substance they had in the syringe that made you docile. In both my experiences in the hospital, there was at least one person who got hit with the juice and either became really loopy and giggly or just numb and stone-like. That night was ended quickly, but I didn't mind because I was tired. The rest of my stay was pretty casual. I went to the group meetings and stayed in there longer, where the other kids would often go into other break rooms and hallways. The nurses gave really good advice because they cared about us. They were in situations similar to us in their childhood or witnessed the effects of what happens to children when they don't have any help, leading to more kids suffering every single day. I made tons of art in there, which I'll show on the screen. I'm pretty sure this type of art is called outsider art or asylum art. Sorry, it's not that creepy. There's a huge stereotype that anyone who enters a mental hospital or psych ward is some deranged individual, but that's not always true. Anyways, that was my first experience. The second time being there was rough. Not in the sense that I had a terrible experience, but it was so stressful because usually there's only 5 to 7 kids in the hospital at any given time. The second time I was there was 10 plus kids and 15 by the time I had left. House of Actual Horrors. And that's a wrap. I'm so sorry to be doing this to you, but this video took me a really long time to make. I know I've been saying that for a lot of my videos now, but that's because it's true. With upping my editing style and also the addition of adding art in this video, yeah, it definitely didn't just take me a week. However, when I think about it in retrospect, I wouldn't take any of the time back that I spent making this video, because not only did I spend time learning how to animate and also just draw in Clip Studio, because I haven't really used it before this. I also learned very valuable tips about just on editing my videos, leveling out my audio, something I didn't do before. I'm really proud of myself, I honestly really am. I'm not gonna make a video in this exact style again unless you guys want to see a part 2, which will be done in this exact same style. I want to continue doing story times because they are fun to make. However, I understand that with how long this took me and the mental strain, that is not exactly the best mix. So next time I do this, I'm not going to strain myself as hard to push for the art. I think I want to go with a hybrid style where it's more of you seeing my VTuber than is you seeing the art, but there will still be plenty of art to go around. Yeah, otherwise, thank you so much for watching. This video has been a long time coming, but I'm just so glad to get it done and just really glad that you're here. Thank you. Anyways, have a good day, good night, goodbye.